The Second Battle of Gaza was fought between 17 and 19 April 1917, following the defeat of the Egyptian Expeditionary Force at the First Battle of Gaza in March. During the Sinai and Palestine Campaign of the First World War, Gaza was defended by the strongly entrenched Ottoman Army garrison, which had been reinforced after the first battle by substantial forces. They manned the town's defences and a line of strong redoubts which extended eastwards along the road from Gaza to Beersheba. The defenders were attacked by Eastern Forces' 3 infantry divisions, supported by 2 mounted divisions, but the strength of the defenders, their entrenchments, and supporting artillery decimated the attackers. As a result of the EEF victories at the Battle of Romani, Battle of Magdaba, and Battle of Rafah fought from August 1916 to January 1917, the EEF had pushed the defeated Ottoman Army eastwards. The EEF reoccupied the Egyptian territory of the Sinai Peninsula and crossed over into the Ottoman Empire territory of southern Palestine. However, the result of the First Battle of Gaza had been as close to a British Empire victory as a defeat could get. In the 3 weeks between the two battles, the Gaza defences were strongly reinforced against a frontal attack. The strong entrenchments and fortifications proved unassailable during the disastrous frontal attacks, when EEF casualties approached, and in some cases exceeded 50% for slight gains. Background: strategic situation and the 11th of January War Cabinet decision to reduce large-scale operations in Palestine was reversed on the 26th of February. Anglo-French Congress, and the Egyptian Expeditionary Force was now required to capture the stronghold of Gaza as a first step towards Jerusalem. Gaza was one of the most ancient cities in the world, being one of 5 city-states mentioned in the Bible as ruled by the Philistines, and had been fought over many times during its 4,000-year history. The Egyptians and the Assyrians had attacked Gaza, followed in 731 BC by the Greeks, with Alexander conducting 3 attacks and the siege of Gaza in 332 BC. The town was completely destroyed in 96 BC and rebuilt slightly to the south of the original site. This Gaza was captured by Caliph Omar in 635 AD, by Saladin in 1187 AD, and by Napoleon in 1799. At Gaza there was an important depot for cereals with a German steam mill, barley, wheat, olives, vineyards, orange groves, and wood for fuel were grown, as well as many goats grazed. Barley was exported to England for brewing into English beer, and in 1912 the 40,000 inhabitants of Gaza imported 10,000 pounds of yarn from Manchester. Maize, millet, beans, and watermelon, all harvested in early autumn, were cultivated in most of these localities. All of the Desert Column mounted infantry divisions had fought during the First Battle of Gaza, when the column's 53rd Division had been heavily involved. This encounter battle by the mounted divisions emphasized speed and surprise, at a time when Gaza had been an outpost garrisoned by a strong detachment on the flank of a line stretching inland from the Mediterranean Sea, while the Desert Column's Anzac Mounted Division and the partly formed Imperial Mounted Division had quickly deployed to guard against Ottoman reinforcements, strengthening the Ottoman garrison at Gaza on the 26th of March. The 53rd Division, supported by a brigade from the 54th Division, attacked the strong entrenchments to the south of the town. In the afternoon, after being reinforced by the Anzac Mounted Division, the all-arms attack quickly began to succeed. With most objectives captured, night stopped the attack and a withdrawal was ordered before the commanders were fully aware of the victory. The first battle ended in debacle, according to Pugsley, when the Anzac Mounted Division knew they were winning, and saw victory snatched away from them by the order to withdraw. Quote, This defeat coincided with low public morale in the British Empire, reflecting the continuing Allied failures on the Western Front. General Archibald Murray, commanding the EEF, reported the defeat at Gaza to the War Office in overly optimistic terms, such that his reputation, as a consequence, depended on a decisive victory at the second attempt. The commander of Eastern Force, Lieutenant General Charles Dobell, also indicated substantial victory, and Murray was ordered to move on and capture Jerusalem. The British were in no position to attack Jerusalem, as they had yet to break through the Ottoman defences at Gaza. However, the Australian official historian described the First Battle of Gaza quite differently. In itself, the engagement was a severe blow to the British Army, since it affected the troops on both sides to a degree out of all proportion to the casualties suffered, or to the negative victory gained by the Turks. There was not a single private in the British infantry, or a trooper in the mounted brigades, who did not believe that failure was due to staff bungling and to nothing else. Preparations for the second attack included the extension of the railway to Deir el-Bila, the headquarters of Eastern Force, to enable all available troops to be deployed for battle. Water reservoirs for 76,000 gallons were built in the Wadi Gaza, and dumps of ammunition and supply were established nearby. The weather was reasonably cool, and the health of the troops was good. Morale had recovered from the disappointment of the first battle, in which victory had so narrowly eluded them. Up until the 4th of April, Eastern Force had been responsible for the southern sector of the Suez Canal defense troops, 150 miles away. This duty was transferred to the Egyptian Expeditionary Force, lightening Dobell's load. Reorganization of Desert Column. Between the First and Second Battles of Gaza, Desert Column, commanded by Lieutenant General Philip Chetwood, was reorganized into an exclusively mounted force comprising the Anzac Mounted Division commanded by Major General Henry Chauvel and the Imperial Mounted Division commanded by Major General Henry Hodgson, each with 4 brigades. Desert Column was to cover the infantry's right flank and attack Ottoman forces along the Gaza to Beersheba road as far as Ha'ira. The 1st and 4th Light Horse Brigades were ordered forward to join the divisions, to make up 4 brigades in each. The Anzac Mounted Division consisted of the 1st and 2nd Light Horse, the New Zealand Mounted Rifle, and the 22nd Mounted Brigades. The Imperial Mounted Division consisted of the 3rd and the recently reformed 4th Light Horse with the 5th and 6th Mounted Brigades. The 4th Light Horse Brigade arrived at Khan Yunis on the 11th of April, and after dumping baggage was preparing to move forward on the 14th of April, carrying the light mobile scale of 6 emergency pack bags per squadron, 3 days' rations, and 12 pounds grain on each horse. Reconnaissance Operations. On the 1st of April, a reconnaissance mission was carried out east of Wadi Gaza between Wadi esh-Sharia and the sea by 1 battalion each from the 52nd, 53rd, and 54th Divisions. The next day 1,000 Ottoman infantry advanced to the right bank of the Wadi Gaza. Both sides conducted day and night patrols. The 10th Light Horse Regiment's scouts led a reconnaissance by the 3rd Light Horse Brigade east of the Wadi el-Guz, when Ottoman artillery was very active during a skirmish with an Ottoman cavalry patrol, some miles beyond the EEF front line. Joseph W. McPherson, an officer in the Egyptian Camel Transport Corps, was invited by 2 Royal Engineer messmates to accompany them on a reconnaissance during the afternoon of Good Friday, the 6th of April 1917. He subsequently wrote, "We saw parties of Turks and mapped down new trenches they had made, got sniped at incidentally, and had to travel a good bit of the way on our bellies." Air war aerial reconnaissance was carried out by both sides. Aerial photographs enabled a new partly contoured map on the 1/40,000th scale to be printed before the Second Battle of Gaza. However, each side was keen to monitor the other's preparations and the air became disputed territory. Newly arrived German aircraft attacked TEF reconnaissance aircraft, during which several duels were fought, none being decisive. On the 6th of April, 5 German aircraft approaching Rafah were intercepted by 2 AFC Martinsyde aircraft, one of which was forced to land and was destroyed on the ground, while the other went for reinforcements. 3 Martinsydes arrived to attack the German formation. Aerial bombing was also strenuously continued by both sides, and while this aerial fight was taking place, hostile aircraft bombed Bir El Mazar. On the 7th of April, a joint raid by 4 Australian aircraft, with several from No. 14 Squadron, bombed Gaza and the Ramla aerodrome, hitting 2 hangars. At El Arish Hospital, Dr. Duguid described the strong moonlight on the 8th of April 1917. Now it is climbing the heavens. 10:30 p.m. It is as clear as day, and the shadow thrown on the sand is very definite. I hear we are expecting an air raid soon. The regiments are digging funk holes everywhere. Rafah was bombed twice on the 12th of April by 3 German aircraft, after which 17 aircraft from the combined EEF squadrons bombed Ottoman positions along the Beersheba line, dropping 1,000 pounds of bombs each on HUJ and KH Elba. Retaliatory raids followed in quick succession before midday and continued on during the 3 subsequent days, accompanied by increased heavy artillery fire from both sides. I should think there are at least 300 smoke wreaths floating above us in the sky, some black, some white. The only clouds in the serene blue. A Tabber and an English plane are maneuvering and occasionally getting in a shot at one another. More English planes are coming up through a barrage of shell bursts, and pieces of our own shells are falling in our own camp, almost a greater danger than Fritz's bombs. Prelude. Defending forces. During the 3 weeks between the first 2 battles for Gaza, the town was quickly developed into the strongest point in a series of strongly entrenched positions extending to Ha'era 12 miles east of Gaza, and southeast towards Beersheba. They increased the width and depth of the front lines, developing mutually supporting localities on ideal defensive ground. The construction of these defenses changed the nature of the attack to an infantry frontal attack across open ground, with mounted troops in a supporting role. The Ottoman force defended 10 to 12 miles of entrenched defenses supported by well-concealed and sighted guns. The positions held by the force commanded by Kress von Kressenstein began on the right flank on the Mediterranean coast, which was strongly entrenched. Next, Gaza and the country to the east of the city was dominated by wired trenches situated on rising ground, while the line towards Beersheba was less strongly fortified. The German and Ottoman forces' well-prepared positions emphasized the advantages of defense by areas as opposed to linear defense, at least by day and in clear weather. The well-sighted redoubts covering wide gaps provided mutual support and facilitated a large reserve force outside the danger zone, which was available to take advantage of counterattack opportunities. The defenses at Atawina, Sausage Ridge, Ha'era, and Tayar has supported each other as they overlooked an almost flat plain, making any attack against them almost impossible. After the first battle, an additional 2 regiments of the 53rd Division, 4 artillery batteries, and some cavalry reinforced the defenses. The force defending the town of Gaza and the western coastal sector consisted of 3rd Infantry Division, 31st Infantry Regiment, 32nd Infantry Regiment, 2 machine gun companies, 4 batteries of field artillery, Austrian mountain howitzer batteries, 1 15-centimeter howitzer battery, 1 regiment of the 16th Infantry Division Group Tiller, a total of 7 infantry battalions, 79th Infantry Regiment, 2nd Battalion, 81st Infantry Regiment, 125th Infantry Regiment, 1 squadron of cavalry, 1 company of cavalry, 12 heavy mountain howitzers in 2 Austrian howitzer batteries, 2 long guns in the German 10 cm battery from Pasha I, 2 Ottoman field artillery batteries. At Ha'era, 1 regiment of the 16th Infantry Division at Tel Ash-Sharia, 16th Infantry Division, and 1 regiment, either of the 47th Infantry Regiment of the 48th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Cavalry Divisions, 1,500 swords at KH Sahan, 53rd Division, 2 battalions of the 79th Regiment, 4 batteries, some cavalry at Beersheba, 2 battalions of the 79th Regiment, 1 artillery battery. They were supported by the 7th and 54th Infantry Divisions of the 20th Corps and 3,000 reinforcements from the 23rd and 24th Infantry Divisions of the 12th Corps. The British estimated 21,000 Ottoman defenders at Gaza and Tel Ash-Sharia, 4,500 at KH Sahan, with a further 2,000 at Atawaina. Other British estimates include 25,000 German and Ottoman troops in the area, with 8,500 at Gaza, 4,500 east of Gaza, 2,000 in the Atawaina redoubt, and 6,000 at Ha'era and Tel al-Sharia, about halfway between Gaza and Beersheba. The official British historian notes there were 18,000 rifles on the front during this second battle, including the Beersheba detachment. The ration strength of the defending force was 48,845, including 18,185 armed with rifles, 86 armed with machine guns. Although they had a total of 101 artillery pieces, only 68 guns were in action during the battle, 12 of which were larger than field gun caliber. The War Office thought there could be 30,000 Ottoman troops in southern Palestine, with the Gaza-Beersheba line defended by about 18,000 men. On the 10th of April, Dobell understood that Gaza was defended by 3 regiments, with 2 regiments east of the town, 2 regiments at Ha'era, and 1 each at Tel Ash-Sharia and near Huj, with potential for mutual support. Just before the attack, it was understood that an Ottoman force of 21,000 held the ground between Tel Ash-Sharia and Gaza, including 8,500 at Gaza, 4,000 at KH el-Bur, and 2,000 at Atawaina. On the 15th of April 1917, the Ottoman forces were estimated at about 1,500 to 2,000 cavalry, 60 to 70 guns, and 20,000 to 25,000 infantry, holding the Sharia, Ha'era to Gaza line with a small reserve near Accra. Attacking forces. Murray ordered Dobell to attack Gaza with 3 infantry divisions. These were the 52nd Division commanded by Major General W. E. B. Smith, the 53rd Infantry Division commanded by Brigadier General S. F. Mott, and the 54th Division commanded by Major General S. W. Hare. The 52nd Division had not been involved in fighting since the Battle of Romani 18 months ago, while the 53rd Division and to a lesser extent, the 54th Division had both been involved in the first battle. These 2 divisions had been almost up to establishment levels before the battle, but they were now on average about 1,500 below establishment. The approximate 4,000 casualties suffered during the first battle had been suffered almost entirely by the 53rd Division, although the 161st Brigade had also suffered particularly heavy losses, remaining in divisional reserve during the Second Battle. It is not known what reinforcements the 53rd Division received during the period between the two battles. The 74th Division, which had been hastily formed from 18 dismounted yeomanry regiments, was now complete except for artillery and one field company. The division arrived and on the 7th of April took over the outpost line along the Wadi-Ghazi from the 54th Division. The infantry would be supported by the Desert Column's two mounted divisions, each consisting of 4 brigades. Artillery and armor. Eastern Force had 170 guns, 16 of which were of medium or larger caliber. With the arrival of railhead at Deir el-Bila on the 5th of April, more medium artillery was transported forward. These included all 12 of the 60-pounder guns, the 201st Siege Battery of 2 8-inch and 6-inch howitzers and the 3rd Brigades of the 53rd and the 54th Division's field artillery, and represented the only additional artillery received between the first and second battles. By the 18th of April, all heavy guns had been registered on the targets by artillery aircraft flying up and down the line, marking every flash. A detachment of 8 heavy Mark I tanks from the Tank Corps reached the front. Tanks had been in use in France since September 1916, and Palestine was to be the only other theater of the war they were employed. They seemed to offer the best chance of a successful frontal assault. Leiden Bell reported to the War Office that they would frighten the defenders out of their lives. Senior officers apparently deployed them for this purpose in widely separated pairs. The tanks which arrived in Palestine in January 1917 had been used for instruction and were not of the latest type. However, during a trial attack they proved themselves in the sandy conditions. Sand, though fairly heavy, did not interfere with them in the least. They buzzed along most satisfactorily. Quote, "They worked well in sand so long as the treads were not greased, which was the normal practice." The tank, War Baby, was powered by a 105 horsepower engine. It had a revolver, loopholes, periscopes, dynamos and differentiator, and was armed with 4 Hotchkiss machine guns and 2 auxiliary guns. This tank was manned by 1 officer sitting beside the driver, 4 gunners on bike seats and 2 greasers. The tanks were to be deployed along the front and advance across open country where they could give shelter to the infantry following behind them. However, as the tanks became targets, the infantry also suffered, and only 2 tanks succeeded in reaching their objectives. A supply of 4,000 rounds of 4.5-inch gas shells was received by the EEF. These were to be the first gas shells used in the Palestine Campaign. Aerial support. A total of 25 aircraft were available in the 5th Wing, including 17 B-2s and 8 Martinsides, which, although being the best fighters available, tended to overheat. At this time, the 5th Wing headquarters, the headquarters of No. 14 Squadron along with its air flight and No. 67 Squadron A, FC, were all stationed at Rafah. No. 14 Squadrons B, Flight and Advanced headquarters were located at Deir el-Bila, while X Aircraft Park was across the Suez Canal at Abbasiyah, with the Advanced Aircraft Park on the canal at Kantara. During the 3 days of the Second Battle, EEF artillery aircraft flew 38 missions and engaged 63 targets. They located 27 batteries, despite difficulties identifying targets through the haze and dust caused by the bombardment, and being attacked by hostile aircraft. Nevertheless, 128 direct hits were recorded by the artillery and 3 guns destroyed, while German and Ottoman anti-aircraft artillery caused the death of 3 pilots and the loss of 2 aircraft. Medical support. All the camels of the mounted field ambulances remained at Deir el-Bila during the fighting except for a small proportion which moved forward, but ambulance men and transport remained at Deir el-Bila during the fighting. As the attacks were made across open country without any cover, many casualties had to be collected in full view of the enemy. Evacuations from Desert Column were carried out by 36 Ford ambulance wagons, 6 from each division, with a convoy of 24 operating between divisional receiving stations at Tel el-Jenimi and the 53rd British Casualty Clearing Station at Deir el-Bila. Then they were transported back to the No. 2 Australian Stationary Hospital at El Arish on the railway before continuing their journey back to Kantara. Dobell's plan. Dobell and Murray discussed the advantages of a flank attack on Gaza from the east instead of a frontal attack. However, the lack of water in the area towards Beersheba put it beyond the resources of the EEF in April 1917. Dobell therefore planned a direct frontal attack on the well-prepared Ottoman defences. He would employ all his available force to crush the main positions defending Gaza, while Desert Column advanced on the right flank, in preparation for a pursuit. The assault would be made in 2 stages. Firstly, the 52nd and 54th Divisions would attack and capture Sheikh Abbas and make a general advance of 2 to 3 miles beyond the Wadi Ghuzi, to place the infantry in a position to launch the main attack on Gaza. These 2 divisions, with the 74th Division in reserve, would advance east of the Esaya Ridge with the 53rd Division, advancing between the Rafah to Gaza Road and the Mediterranean coast. They would subsequently entrench and wire the new forward line, stretching from Tel el-Ujayl on the Mediterranean shore to Essa Ridge, along the Manasra Ridge to Sheikh Abbas, where an infantry brigade would strengthen the defences. This attack was to be covered by the Desert Column, operating to the east and southeast to stop reinforcements moving from Ha'ira and Tel esh-Sharia from reinforcing Gaza. Secondly, as soon as preparations were complete and allowing at least one clear day between the 2 stages, the 52nd, the 53rd, and the 54th Divisions, supported by the Imperial Camel Brigade, were to launch the main attack on Gaza from the south, southwest, and southeast. The 74th Division would form the reserve, while the right flank was protected by Desert Column. The column was to protect the right of the infantry from an advance by the enemy in and beyond the entrenchments at Atalwina and Ha'ira on the Gaza to Beersheba Road. Quote, They also had orders to exploit an infantry breakthrough and attack Ha'ira on the extreme right, and they carried rations for the next day along with an iron ration. According to Falls, some subordinate commanders suggested a concentrated infantry attack in depth on the coastal side of Gaza offered far more favorable opportunities for an infantry attack. Some infantry divisional commanders considered the artillery insufficient for the width of the proposed attack. They thought a more narrowly focused attack would make better use of the available artillery. Chetwood and Chauvel, the 2 most experienced generals in the force, watched the extension of the Ottoman defences at Gaza with some foreboding. Quote, They had seen the strength and determination of Ottoman defenders in entrenched positions at the Battle of Magdaba and the Battle of Rafah. After receiving fresh information regarding Ottoman deployments on the 10th of April, Dobell modified his plan to incorporate a more flexible approach. While the first stage would remain unchanged, during the second stage of the battle he might attack directly by swinging his line slightly northeast, with only one division attacking Gaza to create a gap for Desert Column, depending on whether the hostile Atalwina defences were reinforced by units from the Ha'ira detachment, or he might send most of his force to the coastal side of Gaza to make an attack there.